All right, ladies, let's dive into situational eating, food pushers, and how to troubleshoot some of your nutritional decisions. So, situational eating is any time that we're in a position where food is somewhat special. So, think of holidays, think of vacations, think of a night out with your spouse, a night out with girlfriends, sporting events, movie theaters, anytime where food is something that you're not having on the regular. So, this is something that's going to be so important, not just for fat loss goals, but ultimately being able to sustain your results because we're going to want to step out into the real world and not live in our little bubble in our kitchen, not to mention the fact that this can cause a lot of stress, this can cause a lot of doubt, this can cause a lot of fear around eating in a way that supports and aligns with your goals and the results that you're seeking, and avoiding any types of self-sabotage or ultimately feeling like you have to give up what you're doing in order to be able to live in the real world. So just want to go ahead and normalize the fact that it is normal to experience doubt, it is normal to experience fear, get bored, and have emotional responses. What we're again going to tap into is how we react versus how we respond. And this is going to be really helpful to tap into your why. I'm going to kick this off by sharing a personal story, an actually embarrassing story around having a strong why and what's not a strong why. So I used to have a piece of paper on my refrigerator. It had a stick figure that I drew myself with a little quote beside it that says, "Nothing tastes as good as skinny feels." You guys have probably seen that quote before, and it's not helpful because here's the thing, there's a lot of things that taste better than that because that's not a strong why. Having a weight loss goal is totally fine. Wanting to feel more confident, wanting to feel better in your skin is totally fine. But there are the whys that are behind it that are most important. So perhaps one of your goals is to lose weight so that you can feel more confident, but what's the why behind that? What does this mean for your health? What does this mean for your family, your career, the person that you're trying to become? What is the feeling associated with your goal? That's going to be huge. Because let me tell you, that little piece of paper never stopped me when I really, really, really wanted something. And it's mortifying as the coach, as the trainer, as the nutritionist that's constantly promoting strength, that's constantly promoting eating to fuel. It honestly is, mortifying to look back and say, oh, yeah, that used to hang, it hung on my refrigerator for forever. But my purpose in telling you that is making sure that we have a strong why and also making sure that we have a strong value system. You're going to hear me refer back to this several times throughout this training. So, we've all heard the expression, if you don't know what you stand for, you'll fall for anything. We have to have a clear definition of what we are aligning with versus what we stand against. So this is, not just important for your health and wellness, it's important for any kind of success, but it is incredibly important for your health and your wellness because your health and your wellness should align with your values, should align with the person that you want to become, the person that is going to show up in your career, your relationships, your family, right? So the point of this is our paths can take us on different tangents. We might encounter people or situations that tempt us, confuse us, or sometimes the people that seem like the answer to our prayers, and it's all important to have values. So values are going to help us tell what's really right for us, and we're going to define them if you haven't already today so that you can refer to them often. Values are the principles that give our lives meaning and help us negotiate choices and challenges. They should be a foundation for you to go through life, but clearly knowing your values is going to help you assess any decision and really create a lot of mental freedom for you. So, if you lack a clear definition of your core values, first of all, I don't want you to be embarrassed or ashamed of this. I want to help you get to the root of this and be able to have a clear list for yourself. So, just a quick step-by-step process is to start by brainstorming a list of what's important to you. Things like gratitude, loyalty, adventure, success. Some of my values are growth and investment. And, people always think that investment just means financial, but it doesn't. And I know that I'm not going to tell you guys what a value is for you, but I know that investment is something that You value because you wouldn't be in this program. Investment refers to commitment, dedication, the energy that you put into something. That is what investment truly is. Yes, sometimes financial comes along with it, but investment is such a huge value of mine because I also value growth. They kind of go under the same umbrella. And in valuing growth, I'm constantly seeking ways to essentially level up, to improve the person that I am so that I can be a better nutritionist, I can be a better trainer, I can be a better mom, I can be a better wife, I can be a better human being on this earth. And all of those values tie directly into how I make decisions around my fitness, how I make decisions around my nutrition. Because hopefully what you've learned by now is our food choices directly influence how we're going to be able to show up each and every day. The second thing is writing down whom you admire and why. So, not looking up to celebrities per se, but who is around you? Who are you surrounding yourself with that you admire? People that have maybe done the things that you're trying to do, people that live in a way that you find admirable. Who are these people? They might embody some of the values that you seek to embody as well. The third step is to consider some of your choices and how you feel about them. Are your actions aligned with your opinions about the kind of person you want to be? This is huge. I had a message from a client not too long ago who had just celebrated her 40th birthday. She was going through a period of struggles and she reached out and she was like, "So, is this what 40 is like?" And I paused for a moment in order to, meet this individual with empathy and compassion. But ultimately, what I came back with is you get to decide what 40 is, right? We get to decide what actions we're going to take. Each action we take is a vote for the person you want to become or a vote against that person. And so rather than just accepting the thoughts, the feelings that you're currently embodying, you get to make the choice every single day to have different thoughts. Different thoughts create different feelings. Different feelings create different actions, and actions are going to help develop the person that you want to be. And so there's a lot of things that we can't change, right? Circumstances we can't always change. There are a lot of things out there that we're not going to be in control over, which is what we're talking about in this training. But one thing that we always have control over is our thoughts. Our thoughts create our feelings create our actions. So if you have littles in the room, turn the volume down or put on earbuds. But Brene Brown has this concept of the shitty first draft, and so what she talks about is the fact that we have these thoughts and these stories, and we have the shitty first draft, and we get to make the choice. Are we going to turn in the shitty first draft and let that be the final novel, or are we going to take a moment using mindfulness, choose to respond, rewrite the shitty first draft into something that aligns more with who we want to be and the actions we want to take, and therefore we can create a different outcome. So, the fourth step is that you're going to narrow all this down to about half a dozen key principles that are not based on temporary situations. Again, this program is not, we're not creating temporary solutions here. We're not creating temporary results. And so, I want to be really clear on the fact that these values are things that you're going to carry for life. They're a part of who you are. This is not temporary. And if two or more are similar, we can try to combine them and just create one umbrella. But I love it when clients come to me and they do this exercise and they've got, lots of things under one umbrella. So that means that value really is very, very important to you. So write this list down, keep it handy, and refer to it often. I will share with you one thing that I did when I was initially, getting really in touch with my values was that I wrote it down on a piece of paper. I really do believe in the power of handwriting things. And I took a picture and kept it as the backdrop on my phone. And so these values are things that I am constantly making decisions from. Again, when we're taking action, we want these actions to be in alignment with our values. And this has everything to do with your exercise and your nutrition and everything with what I'm going to teach you today. So let's go over really quickly our little toolbox here. So these tools are going to be super helpful for navigating situational eating, navigating food pushers, and peer pressure. So, the key to moving forward, once again, is to have more tools and resources than you have obstacles and barriers to your success. So, this lesson today has everything to do with where you currently are in your journey and how you will continue for the rest of your life. These aren't things that are, tedious like macro tracking or things like that. These are mindset shifts. These are ways to negotiate certain situations, to navigate certain situations, so that you can continue to live the healthy and sustainable life you're setting yourself up for. We are always meeting ourselves with compassion, curiosity, and vulnerability. Remember, guilt and shame are not dial movers. So, making decisions that don't align with your goals, that don't align with the person that you're trying to become, that don't align with your values, can somewhat lead to the walk of shame the next day. And you guys probably know what I'm referring to, going out for a night and then waking up, regardless of having a food hangover, an alcohol hangover, whatever, but just not feeling your best because of the decisions that you made the night before. Having confidence in your choices and your decisions. Again, this goes back to that why, this goes back to your values. That will do nothing but solidify your confidence in yourself, your confidence in your choices, and the confidence in the decision that you're making. We are always going to be using the tools of mindfulness and awareness. The three DNCs really come in handy here for situational eating, whether it's a vacation, whether it's a night out, whatever it is, making sure that you're following your nutritional checks and balances and that they're lining up with the three E's. They're effortless, they're effective, and they're enjoyable. So, this is again another thing that we want to be carrying on no matter where you are in your journey. The process of learning about yourself never ends. But the more that we learn about ourselves, again, this just reinforces that confidence, being able to monitor our hunger and recognizing that 80% fullness. Remember, stuffing ourselves is stressful, starving ourselves is also stressful. Recognizing hunger and recognizing satisfaction in that 80% fullness is going to be so key in you being able to navigate situational eating. Not necessarily food pushers, but definitely situational eating. Preemptive cheats. This is something that ties along with intermittent sampling. So, we've talked about intermittent sampling being a tool that we can use to sample anything, binge on nothing. Preemptive cheats allows us to have certain things that are tasty. Currently, mine is gluten-free Oreos. So I have usually one, maybe 1 to 2 every day or every other day, so that I never get to the point where I'm just jonesing for a sweet treat. So these could be anything like a protein bar, adding a little extra dietary fats. Dairy is a good preemptive cheat. Anything that just leaves you feeling really, really satisfied. The goal of all of this is to stay satisfied all of the time, and while you may feel like these foods are a little bit more calorically dense, and they are, what the goal of using these types of things is to keep us satisfied so that we're avoiding essentially going over the deep end later. We know that restriction leads to binge like behavior. And so we want to make sure that we're always feeling full and we're always feeling satisfied. Again, using the tool of intermittent sampling, this is great for situational eating, allowing you to, essentially do little taste tests as you go through whatever your situation is. And just reminding yourself that you don't have to have an entire plate or something. It is okay just to have a little bit here and there. Always reminding yourself that this is a practice and you cannot mess it up. This is not something that you do right or wrong. There is no failure, there's only feedback. So, again, looking at the spectrum here, excuse me, we have the starving side, we have the stuff side. Both sides are stressful. Scarcity is being over here, and scarcity is something that shows up in a big, big, big way when it comes to special eating situations, situational eating. Is that feeling that you can only have this food at this time? This is kind of like a Last Supper mentality. Last Suppers happen on Sunday nights, at the end of the month, at the end of vacation, at the end of the year, when you feel like you need to get it all in because you're not going to have access to these things the next day. So this is where I remind you of being in the middle of satisfaction and being in abundance. So this is where intermittent sampling comes in handy, preemptive cheats and things like that, allowing yourself to have little bits of things all the time, always having access to these foods, reminding yourself that you can have whatever you want whenever you want, with the exception of dietary restrictions and things that just aren't helpful for your health in any way, shape, or form. But reminding yourself that nothing is off limits. Chronic dieting teaches us deprivation and perpetuates this all or nothing mentality. We know that overindulgence or binge behavior, which comes from the starving, deprivation, and restriction, creates guilt and shame, perpetuates this all or nothing mentality. So we want to really operate in this place of abundance. I want to talk for a moment about restriction mentality. So I've worked with a fair number of people that have different dietary restrictions, and they'll come to me saying, "Well, I'm restricted from X, Y, and Z because my doctor said so." And I want to remind you of the shitty first draft and how we are in control of our thoughts. We can either have thoughts around "I'm restricted, I'm deprived, I can't." Or we can change that narrative and remind ourselves that we are making the choice. We are actively choosing. Because, guys, I cannot have gluten, but I could. Physically, I could put the gluten in my mouth. I could chew it, I could eat it. But what I have to remind myself for, when my children are eating like a delicious yeast donut, I used to love those. And I'm stuck with the little flat gluten-free donut. What I remind myself of is, rather than focusing on "I can't, I'm restricted, I feel deprived from this," is I'm focusing on how I'm taking actions towards how I want to feel, how I want to be, the person I want to become, and doing the thing that I know I shouldn't do is not going to be a vote for yes for my health, for yes for my well-being, a vote for yes for just feeling good. I know it's going to make me feel like crap. So again, just flipping it around. Quit telling yourself that you're restricted. Quit telling yourself that, at the end of the day, if you're not hungry and someone offers you dessert, you've already consumed all your macros. There's no shame in just saying, "I could have this if I wanted it." That keeps us in abundance, but I'm actively choosing not to because I'm full. It doesn't fit in with my goals for the day. But I know I can have that again tomorrow. There is no food out there that is so special that you can only have it in that one moment. Yes, even pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving. All right, so let's get into some food pushers and peer pressure. This is unfortunately a huge part of you know things that we have to deal with as we move forward, especially when you move beyond a quote dieting cycle. And we're going to talk some more about nutritional periodization. But when we move past the dieting cycle and we're moving forward, we're you're probably going to have comments made around your food. So again, you're going to have doubt. You're going to doubt yourself. You're going to doubt your process. That's normal. You're going to experience control issues as we move into situational situations. You're going to deal with the shiny object syndrome, as I call it, when we get bored. Remember, consistency is kind of boring, and all of these can rear their ugly heads when we're in situations where we're being social, when other people are commenting on what we're eating, how we're eating, what we're doing, sharing with us what they're doing, why it's so amazing, why we should jump on that bandwagon, which is why I bring that up. So, food pushers, peer pressure, or situational eating. This looks like eating when you feel what you feel you need in order to avoid offending someone, right? I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings by saying no. I don't want to offend someone because I don't want to share food with them. I don't want to offend a family member because I'm full and I just don't want dessert for the dinner. All kinds of different ways that this shows up. I will say this is where intermittent sampling can become super, super helpful. My husband's family is Ecuadorian. They do a lot of things with food. It is so much food, all 3 meals, so much food. And so that's something that I've had to utilize a lot. My mother in law is a 94-year-old Ecuadorian grandmother. So there is some offense when you turn down food. So keeping that in mind when we are in situations, and I'm going to give you some tools again on the next slide, but just keeping that in mind, that we can use other ways to intermittent sample, to do things in small quantities if you are in that situation. But a lot of times it comes down to, we just say yes and we do whatever someone else tells us to because we don't want anyone to be offended. The second thing is making others feel better about their own choices. You are not responsible for how someone feels about their own choices and decisions. You are only responsible for how you feel at the end of the day for your own choices and decisions. What this looks like is, the most common thing is being at a social gathering or being at a bar and your friend Susie says, "Hey, I'm going to get another drink. Do you want one?" You know that Susie is looking for validation for her choice. And so a lot of times, people will say, sure, just because Susie is doing it. So making sure, again, going back to mindfulness and awareness, going back to our why, going back to our values, always making sure that your choice is your own. Your choice is your own, and it lines up with who you want to be, who you're becoming, and how you want to feel, after doing the thing the next day, whatever have you. Fitting in or matching the environment. This is another thing. This is, sitting at a restaurant with a girlfriend and saying, "I'll have what she's having," or, being at a movie theater and having popcorn just because everyone else is having popcorn. Going to a baseball game and having a hot dog because everyone else is. This is a huge, huge, huge issue when it comes to social gatherings, going out with friends, going on vacation with family members, work functions, all these different things. Just wanting to fit in. Belonging is very natural for us to want to do, and we feel like we have to match the environment, match the situation in order to belong, and that's just simply not true. So again, going back to discernment, being able to practice intermittent sampling, and also picking and choosing your nutritional battles. Do you want to say yes to this, or is this your best option? Remembering that at the end of the day, we're looking for consistency with our macros. There are going to be situations where we can't be perfect, and not letting that be the end of the world as well, but also not letting the fact that your macros are not going to be perfect an excuse for you to just go over the deep end and just do whatever everyone else is doing, because it doesn't even matter anymore. It does. So, tools and strategies. I've already started to go over this just a little bit, but choices versus decisions. So sometimes decisions being, we're in this environment, the decision is already made for us. We still have choices. So this looks like going to a family dinner. The decision's already been made. What's for dinner? The food's been prepared. None of that is up to us. But what we do get to choose is what we are consuming from what is available, how we are consuming. Are you just consuming mindlessly? Are you consuming mindfully? Are we eating to 80% full, avoiding stuffing ourselves? Because, a good example is, I always think of the Friends episode where Joey puts on Phoebe's maternity pants, the stretchy Thanksgiving pants, not doing things like that because, oh my gosh, this is a special holiday. I'm going to do all the things. I'm, at an all inclusive resort. I'm just going to eat my money's worth, different things like that. All these different environments, the decision of what's available has already been made, but we get to choose how we act. We get to choose how we respond versus react, and we get to choose to implement mindfulness and awareness. Always, always, always going back to the basics of mindfulness and awareness. Does this serve me and or my goals? What could I take or leave? This is a big one. This is a big one that comes up, a lot of times with holiday parties. This comes up with buffets. I'm thinking like cruises. I'm thinking of all-inclusive resorts. I'm thinking of, holiday Thanksgiving meals, going back to that, looking at what's available and what could you take or leave. And I don't mean what could you take or leave in terms of this fits with my macros, this doesn't. What would make me really, we need to choose joy as well. What is really important for me to have here? Is the Thanksgiving pumpkin pie more important than the pecan pie? Do I want a little bit of both? Turkey or ham? What is going to be most important to you at the end of the day? We probably don't need to have all the starches. I know there's so many starches at our family Thanksgiving. So again, just using the mindfulness and awareness, being really discerning. What could I take or leave? And then again, intermittent sampling, going back to pumpkin pie versus pecan pie. You can have a little bit of both. We don't have to have the whole piece of pumpkin pie. We don't have to have the whole piece of pecan pie. We can have a few bites of each and call it a day. So again, just being really mindful and aware of the choices that we are making and the actions that we're taking. All right. So food pushers and peer pressures. Comments are not welcome when it comes to, the what you're trying to do as far as your lifestyle, what you're consuming. And this is something that I really have struggled with personally as a nutritionist. There have been so many times that I have chosen to do different things. As far as ordering at a restaurant in a social situation, because people just expect certain things out of me, and it's not something that I do anymore. But I will tell you, as a nutritionist, I've gotten really confident and comfortable with sharing things that I'll consume on my Instagram stories, and it bar none will get so many comments. I cannot believe that you would eat that. Can you really eat that and lose weight? By the way, it's also not okay for someone to constantly be assuming that just because you're paying attention to the food that you're eating, that you're trying to lose weight. There are so many more reasons to pay attention to your food. Anyway, to avoid getting on a tangent, let's go through this. So, eating is not a zero sum game. Someone choosing healthy doesn't make you a bad person or take away from your self worth. It doesn't. So, what you have learned so far is that we can eat flexibly. So, what is healthy for you may not be healthy for another person, and vice versa. We also can, go to the baseball game and eat a hot dog if it fits with our goals. Maybe that's not healthy for another person, but that's okay. Healthy can be multidimensional as far as what's good for your mental and emotional health, as well as what's good for your physical health. And we have to be able to find a balance between the two. Someone choosing not healthy doesn't make you a better person, doesn't mean that you should, but it also doesn't mean you need to downplay your process in order to make them feel better. So your choices are not taking away from someone else's life. It's just not. You do not need to downplay the fact that you've worked really hard, that you're working on sustainable lifestyle changes, that you're working towards your health and you're working towards your goals. At the end of the day, doing that doesn't serve anyone. It may temporarily make you feel a little less uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, you have to go home and you have to sit with your choices and decisions, and so does the other person. And so it's not helpful for anyone. And if you're triggered by someone else's eating, this is the perfect opportunity for self-inquiry. Are you triggered by someone else making choices? And this comes up from, I've heard a lot of clients talk about this after work functions. It seems like at the work cooler, someone's always trying something different. They're trying keto, they're trying intermittent fasting, they're trying whatever. And so if you're starting to get triggered by, coworker Sally over here, suggesting making comments on the fact that you had bread for lunch or whatever, just notice if you're triggered by someone else's eating. And going back to shiny object syndrome is still going to come up, right? You're still going to be triggered by people doing other things. We just want excitement all the time, right? But you know that you are working for long-term sustainable success. And so, rather than just going off the deep end here, use it as an opportunity for self inquiry. What's coming up for you? Where are you not trusting your process? Where are you not trusting yourself? Where are you looking for excitement? And what's the reason that you're being triggered? So, the power lead is a term coined by a positive psychologist, Michelle Gillen. I'm not sure if I pronounced her last name correctly. But what this looks like is, when you're having a conversation with someone, historically goes negative or even takes cheap shots or acts passive aggressively, we're just entering that situation with high vibes. Reducing the chances that they'll go negative by, being really confident. Again, going back, I know you guys are tired of hearing it. Going back to your why, going back to your values, and just being really, really clear in your choices, having a really, really strong foundation. So this is also about clear and honest communication surrounding your goals. So looking at, having boundaries. People respect people with boundaries, guys. So maybe you've had friends that have made comments about what you're doing, why what they're doing is better, why you shouldn't be, I could spend a whole 30 minutes going through that, but I'm not going to. But this could all be a really, really simple stop with saying, hey, I just want to be really honest. I'm really working hard at this. I'm making changes. I'm making headway, and I really would like to see this process through. I really would like to stick with what I'm doing, and I appreciate you respecting that. And so I always think about all the times that I get mad at my husband for either doing something that I didn't communicate with him or not doing something that I haven't communicated with him on. And it's kind of the same thing, right? If you don't have an open conversation around these are my boundaries, then how can people know and respect your boundaries? So again, making sure that you're just open. This also works really well with family members. I know I've had this conversation with my mom before. I had the conversation around just when gluten was like a trial. I really need to stick through this. I know that you kind of feel we're Southern, so, cornbread, all those things. I know you feel like I should just be able to have all the gluten in the world, but I really want to stick through this process and figure out what's going on here. So just communicating there. I will say I've been very fortunate through all my life. I've dealt with many, many clients that have had their moms have been one of the biggest food pushers. And I definitely have not experienced that in my own family or commenters about different things that are going on with your body, and that's just never been something that I've had to deal with. So one of the other tools that is really powerful here is ownership. So this is the tool to deter negativity and to dissipate shame, truthfully. This is being solid in your choices once again, having clear values, having a strong why. But here's some examples of owning your food choices. And guys, all of these are either personal examples or examples from previous clients who have had comments around nutritional choices that they're making or choices that they're making for their lifestyle. So, an example of this would be, yeah, I'm tracking my macros in order to build self awareness around food choices. I eat healthy, but it's all about satisfaction. So, kind of middle of the road. So, this is an example when we get comments around, aren't you on a diet? Shouldn't you be eating XYZ? The second one, I'm actually not trying to eat clean or be obsessive and restrictive because I know that doesn't last. Again, you guys can kind of see how this is just, also reinforcing what you're actually doing, but you're also doing this as a way to just model example and educate others who might be caught in a trap. You never know how you're going to influence someone, how you're going to impact someone, and it might be a decision that changes them for the better. Or, again, this is a comment on aren't you dieting? I get this all the time when I share different things that I'm eating. I'm done dieting because I know it just leads to yo-yoing. I'm really working on a sustainable change for my present and my future. So again, using whatever works for you. If you are in a position where people are making comments about your food choices or making comments about your nutritional plan, you can really, really work with these in order to again, just solidify what you're actually doing and to be helpful to create those clear boundaries, right? Clear communication, clear boundaries. It's not, anybody's job to police your food choices, and truthfully, it's not your job to really explain them either. This is just helpful. So let's kind of talk about some assignments and some things to focus on, not just this week, but in the coming week. So, first, I am going to challenge you to identify your triggers around social eating. So, identify your triggers around peer pressure and eating and public eating. So, what are you fearful of? What gives you anxiety? What stresses you out about going out and being social? Upcoming holiday events, vacations, so on and so forth. What are you concerned with, and how can you, again, refer back to some of the things that we've talked about in this training, refer back to your values to find a little bit more comfort and confidence in those. Ask yourself, do you change your eating habits based on who you're with? This is a pretty big one. Asking, and if the answer is yes, and I'm going to guess that for some of you, it probably is a resounding yes. I know what this was me for a long time. Why do you change your habits based on who you're with? And this is not, none of this is an opportunity for you to judge or criticize yourself. And again, how can you use what we've discussed this evening? How can you use your values? How can you use your why to change the outcome in the future? How can you be an example instead of being at the mercy of the situation or the people that you are with? So, again, social situations, work situations, holidays. How can you be an example of, not stuffing yourself, having healthy habits, not being restrictive, all these things that you're working so hard on, rather than just letting the decisions that have already been made about the situation control you? How can you take control? How can you be an example? You never know. Again, you never know who you're going to influence. You never know who needs to see the fact that you don't need to be restrictive and that you can live healthfully and live a sustainable lifestyle, losing weight, maintaining your weight, all these things. Um, Lastly, do you worry about being judged, or do you ever judge? So, do you judge people for their food choices? Do you judge yourself for your choices when you're out and about? Do you worry about being judged for your food choices? And so, just start to ask yourself, are you getting triggered by other people being obsessive with food? Are you being triggered by other people that don't eat carbs? Do you take it personally when people are commenting on your food? Does it make you feel less than? Does it affect how you feel about yourself? Um, all these different things, just again, self-reflection on what's going on, mindset wise, as you are going into some of these eating situations. Again, that these are it's just going to reinforce your confidence. It's going to reinforce your ability to make solid choices that line up with the goal that you are trying to achieve. Always reminding yourself that this is practice, guys. This is practice. You're not going to get this right at first, but the more you can be mindful and aware of the thoughts that are going on in your head, the stories that you're creating, the actions that you're taking, and the choices that you're making, the more equipped you are going to be to do things that better align with the outcome that you're seeking in the future. All right. I hope this is helpful, you guys. Let me know any questions that you have and have a great rest of your day.